The Andy Pollin Show.
We got to go after this with everything we got, figuring they're going to come with everything they got.
I'll start off by saying I'm bored, I'm broke, and I'm back.
The Andy Pollin Show on ESPN 630 starts right now.
Okay, it's exhibition football, but it's football. It's guys in helmets and pads and uniforms. And it's the Hall of Fame game tonight. It's the Detroit Lions and the LA Chargers. And guess what? We're going to have football, I think, every Thursday night right through January or close to it. I mean, it is on. It is on exhibition-wise. We're still a ways from the regular season, but okay, it's back. And we may have a stadium deal. Vote is tomorrow. Phil Mendelson, the city council chairman who was against it, now says he believes they have the 8 votes necessary. And this will pass. It means that it will sit now for about a month. After tomorrow, it will have to go through Congress. And cross your fingers, we will have a stadium open in time for the 2030 season. It is never easy with these type of things, and you're talking about a deal that's close to $4 billion. So we had a lot of back and forth on this, and there was even some last-minute sweeteners thrown in by the team yesterday. But it looks like there are enough people who are satisfied with the deal that they have in place that it is going to be approved tomorrow. We'll get to that just a moment. We'll talk about Gilbert Arenas in a little bit. Man, I mean, the judgment for this guy who appears to be, smarter than he acts, but trouble always seems to find this guy. And the latest is a high-stakes poker game allegedly run out of his mansion, which he no longer owns. And the feds have come in and they've tied him to some organized crime in Israel, believe it or not. And wait till you hear about the salacious nature of this poker game, this high-stakes poker game that went on for, I think, close to a year, maybe a year and a half in his home. We will get to that coming up. A lot more flowers for Jaden Daniels. You listen to the national talk shows. Everybody is fawning over Jaden Daniels. Still nothing on Terry McLaurin. Team is back on the practice field today. They got out there at 8 o'clock to avoid the brutal heat. We're supposed to get thunderstorms later today. I guess they'll be in the bubble when they do the walkthrough later on. But we're still waiting. And, it's it is really going a long time. I'm surprised that we're at Thursday. We're more than a week into training camp. It opened a week ago Tuesday, and still no deal, but he is a hold-in. He's there. At least he's not running up $50,000 a day in fines, but there's no indication yet that there's going to be a deal. A lot of rumors, a lot of different rumors flying around, but so far, no deal. Anyway, yesterday they had kind of the kvetchathon at the Wilson Building downtown. You had the president of the Commanders, Mark Klaus, there. He came up with some new proposals, some things to add in, including a grocery store, of all things. The amended agreement adds $50 million for community benefits. They will include a sports academy in Ward 7 and a commitment to building a grocery store in that area, which has had issues, obviously, with food sources in that area. So it's all a community effort. Everybody seems to be aligned on it. The concerns have been addressed. Phil Mendelson released an amended version of the agreement after negotiations estimated they would bring in $779 million more in revenue over 30 years than the initial proposal from Muriel Bowser. And look, this is not the first rodeo for the men that own the Commanders. They're used to big billion-dollar business deals. So they're going to keep some things in their pocket till the last minute. And that's what happened yesterday as Mark Klaus showed up with a few more things to make this a more palatable agreement for people who are opposed to it on the city council. Tom Lovero's got a couple of things on this in his column today, which I want to get to just to make sure. The Commanders ensured that the garages would not block a new station, a new metro station on Oklahoma Avenue near the stadium. And that is, that's to me, because of the garages that they're talking about, the multi-level parking garages. If you don't take Metro to the game, you're a fool. Even if you are willing and able to pay whatever it costs to park your car. And I got to think it's by the time they open that stadium, I would say $75 to $100 to park your car is not out of the question. The parking is going to be limited. The best thing you can do on game day is to take the Metro to the game. And that's an advantage that you haven't had at Northwest Stadium. Yeah, there's a Metro there, but it's over a mile away. The shuttle buses sometimes ran, sometimes did not. It really wasn't realistic to take Metro to the game, but I think that's something that's going to be probably a must once the stadium does get open in 2030. Now, one thing Lavero points out here, and again, I don't think this is a negative. If you come to the table with this amount of money, the team is going to put up initially $2.7 billion, and they're going to pay for cost overruns as well. And there are always overruns on this, so it's probably going to be a $3 billion plus commitment. And Tom writes today, I'm sure Josh Harris and his band of saviors will show more reverence to RFK's memory than Dan Snyder, who tried to establish an RFK stomp zone standing cheering section at Northwest Stadium until the Kennedy family told Snyder they didn't appreciate being associated with a respective measure like the RFK stomp zone. So there was that. So there would be more, reverence in terms of that. But he says, as part of the agreement with the city, the Commanders will be given acres of prime land to develop, which will reap financial rewards. How much? As Mayor Muriel Bowser said, think wharf developments, multiple developments. And as far as the cost overruns, he says this is not, and it's true, this is not unusual. Buffalo Bills are paying for overruns on their new stadium. The Titans are responsible for cost overruns on theirs as well. And the community benefits package, that's a pretty common thing. As a matter of fact, as Tom points out, Josh Harris, when he was trying to build a new arena for the 76ers in Philadelphia, he's since abandoned that, but was agreeing to pay $60 million in community benefits for this. So, cross your fingers, but it looks like we got a deal in place. As the mayor said yesterday, kind of off color, she said this is a BFD, very big. And I recognize that passions are high, questions are intense, and our great desire to get this right for the forefront of our thinking. I also recognize that the time is now to act or miss our window of opportunity to capture $2.7 billion in private investment and get a shovel in the ground by the end of next year. That's another crazy thing about this, that it's going to take 2 years to take down RFK Stadium. They've already started to do some of it. All the seats are out, but it's not going to start until the end of next year. So, we're looking here at like another 18 months before we even put a shovel in the ground. And this is so different than the way they threw up what is now Northwest Stadium, in that it was supposed to be, as I was told, a 36-month project. It went up in 18 months because Jack Kent Cooke was old and ill, and he wanted to see it built before he died. He got to see the structure of it, but was not alive when the stadium opened in September of 1997. They're also fighting over a couple more things, and maybe they work this out over the course of time. But what they want the team to do is to put their headquarters in D.C. Rather than Maryland, I guess, for tax reasons and so forth. But I don't think that's going to be a big sticking point. And then there's a couple of more things. Under the original agreement, according to this is what the Post has, the team, which is acting as the master developer, won't have to pay rent to the district, the stadium, or other developments for the first 28 years, a perk that some lawmakers questioned. Phil Mendelson's amended agreement, however, requires the Commanders to pay rent sooner as a penalty if they blow past deadlines to deliver different phases of developments, such as the 6,000 new housing units the team is expected to deliver, with 1,800 of them affordable units. Mark Klaus, the team president, said in return for the deferred rent, the team will move urgently to complete the developments or else face penalty, and will have separate development teams working on housing and commercial parcels on the parallel timeline with the stadium's development. The entire development would be set to be completed by 2040. This was similar to what they did at Nats Park. There were deadlines like this on Nats Park, that there were penalties if they went past deadlines. So that makes a lot of sense. And as far as I'm concerned, the kvetching over the fact that the Commanders are not going to pay rent on the stadium, well, they're kicking in most of the money. When they built Nats Park, that was city funded. That was built by the city. It didn't cost nearly as much money as this, but if the team is going to pay to build it, why should they pay rent? They will, I guess, eventually. But I don't think, to me anyway, I'm not that savvy in business, but it didn't make sense that the team would have to pay rent on a place that they built themselves. I mean, if you build a house, do you have to pay rent on it? No, I don't think so. This is how Muriel Bowser opened her news conference yesterday after a long day of people testifying how they felt about the stadium. There was Tuesday was a day where citizens can come forward, and yesterday we had negotiations back and forth with the city council and the team, and this was a somewhat exhausted Muriel Bowser talking to the media.
Do you feel you made your case?
Yes.
How so?
I think, listen, we have a great project. We have the right partner. It's the right time. Everyone has been heard. Everyone's views have been reflected, and now it's time to vote.
Mayor, Ben Peters, Washington Business Journal. So the team today came out with a pretty extensive list of concessions that they were willing to make for the members of council here. Do you see a scenario in which they budge further, or is this as far as the team's willing to go?
I don't know. Well, I'm not exactly sure if I would call them concessions, but commitments. And I think what we heard from the members of the council, that there were some things they weren't sure about, or they weren't sure where they lived, and they wanted them reiterated. And I think other things weren't addressed and needed to be added. So I think that it is a pretty comprehensive list of, based on all of the questions that we got.
But do you see them making any further changes beyond what they made today, or is this kind of the end of the line?
This is Wednesday. We have to get to Friday, so yes.
Yeah, I think what she's saying is things are set up for this to get the votes by the city council when they meet tomorrow to vote on this. Now, it's not a done deal at that point, because then it also has to go through Congress, and that's not going to take place until September. But what she doesn't want is more days of negotiations back and forth. I think what they did yesterday was they satisfied enough of the council people who were on the fence about this to voting for it. And as Phil Mendelson said, it looks like they have the votes. Look, Mendelson went from, when they started this, to, that's not going to fly, to going back to the team, working things through further. Deadlines make deals. Remember that. This was supposed to be a vote that was going to take place on July 15th, so we're almost 2 weeks after that. And now it's going to take place just before they go into August recess for the city council. That was a big hurdle, because it looked like there wasn't going to be a vote before the August recess. Then you get back in September. Maybe you get a vote taken in time, but the more this goes further and further down the line, as I said, they're not going to put a shovel in the ground to start construction on the new stadium for a year and a half, the end of next year. So these are things that had to be, put in place, and they did. The team was willing to make concessions, partly because they're going to really benefit from this. As Tom Lavero points out, they've got all this acreage of land to have new development there. One more thing about, and this has been a constant discussion with the parking garages, with the amount of available space around the stadium. There's a lot of talk about, no, we're not going to have the tailgating that we used to have. No, it's going to be different. And I can tell you from visiting the stadium in Atlanta a couple of years ago, I went with my son to a game there. My nephew works for the Falcons, and we got there early. And there are plenty of bars and restaurants around the stadium, and that's what's going to develop here over the course of time. When it first opens, it won't be that way. But as the years go by, much like Nats Park, you're going to see all these different places to eat and drink and hang out before the game. So tailgating is going to be a little bit different. There will still be a few places for tailgating, and there's also supposed to be some parkland nearby. And I wonder about this, especially when the weather's pretty good. I mean, could you set up your barbecue grill there in a park and do some of that before you go over to the game? This just goes back a ways, but I think it was the 2008 season. And I had to go to all the games because we used to do the post-game show from the club level. I did it with John Riggins that season. And, going to the games, you'd see a lot of people tailgating. And in the lot that I parked in, there were a lot of grills and so forth. And there was a guy, I saw who had a grill. Several had a grill. They put him right outside the car. About the second quarter of the game, you could look out the press box window and you could see a car on fire that somebody had put the grill not completely out, I guess, in the trunk of their car. And, the car caught on fire. Didn't look like anybody got hurt on that. I guess they got it out in time. It was not near my car because, why not? You've got to worry about that. But tailgating, it's going to change. It's going to be a little bit different. But we're still a ways away from it, and I think that as they do in Atlanta, people will adjust. Coming up, Gilbert Arenas in trouble again. It's the Andy Pollin Show, ESPN 630.
The Andy Pollin Show on ESPN 630, the sports capital.
Gilbert Arenas came to town in 2003 as a free agent with the Wizards. Michael Jordan had just been booted out by owner Abe Pollin, the lasting image of Jordan driving his Ferrari out of the then MCI Center with Illinois plates on it, showing you that he really had never invested in this area. He played a couple of years. He'd been a terrible GM for a while before that, and enough was enough. He was out. Ernie Grunfeld comes in, and his first big free agent signing is Gilbert Arenas, who had become a pretty good player with the Golden State Warriors. And they brought him here as part of the rebuild, and for a little while, he was probably the biggest star in town. We didn't have a baseball team until 2005. The football team was terrible, as usual. I think those were the Spurrier years. Gibbs came along a year later, but, they were bad. And the hockey team didn't yet have Alex Ovechkin. So you could make the case that Gilbert Arenas was the biggest star. And he was spectacular. He had some enormous games. He had 60 points against the Lakers. I mean, he could do it. He could score, and he was beloved by the fan base. But he also proved to be a moron, and that proved to be his undoing. I say moron not so much because when you talk to him, he doesn't seem to be intelligent, that he's not successful doing a podcast, but the decisions he makes are so stupid. So let's go back to 2009. And they had another player on the team named Javaris Crittenden, who later went to jail in a drive-by shooting. He was targeting somebody else, apparently, and hit a pregnant woman, I believe, in the leg, and she wound up passing away. And he was sent to jail for, I think, at least 10 years, if I'm not mistaken. But anyway, these two chuckleheads got into an argument on the team flight over a card game. And it escalated to the point where Crittenden said, "I'm going to shoot you in your knee." And so Gilbert takes that to another level, and he says, "Great, I'm going to bring guns." They made a documentary about this recently on Netflix. It's called Shooting Guards. Here's Gilbert's explanation of this stupidity.
"I'll bring you the guns. I'll bring you the guns. Because I'm pretty sure you can't afford it. I'm going to bring you the guns, and I want to see you shoot me. That's how we're going to do it." So that's how we finished our argument. So Sunday, normal day, we day off, enjoying, all the players are having fun. And then Monday comes. We have practice at 10. I'm usually there at 8 o'clock, because I do my ritual. I got steam, stretch, do all the dumb stuff, right? Mm-hmm. So I had the guns put on this chair, and then I wrote a note. Pick one.
Yeah, that was really clever. Now, teammates were horrified by this. They're watching this. The reports are they ran out of the locker room. It stayed quiet for a while, and Peter Vesey, who was then working for the New York Post, got wind of the story, printed it, and that's when things began to escalate. And Gilbert took it to another stupid level with all these reports out. When he was being introduced at a game in Philadelphia, he came out for the huddle, like using his fingers as guns and laughing about it. Well, the commissioner at the time, David Stern, had enough of that, and Gilbert Arenas was suspended for the rest of the season. He later pleaded guilty to carrying an unlicensed pistol, which is a felony in the district. He was sentenced to 2 years probation and 30 days in a halfway house. Well, now we have this. And Gilbert Arenas yesterday was arrested after federal authorities accused him of running an illegal gambling business. Alex Stone is a reporter for ABC. He's got the rundown on what the charges are.
What federal prosecutors are alleging is that he has been running this high-level illegal poker operation out of a home in the Encino area of L.A., and not just having a couple of buddies come by and play poker, but that this was a very well-planned out, well-organized operation with 5 other co-conspirators involved in this, including a member of an Israeli transnational crime group, according to federal prosecutors. But they say that this was something where they had hired women who would help out in the operation and give what they call companionship to those who were playing in the game, that they had armed security guards, that they had chefs that were hired for all of these, and that a lot of money was involved. They had security guards to make sure the wrong people weren't getting into all of this. They had a rake, a fee, the house charges. So they say this was well organized. All were arrested today. A number of agencies involved. Arenas was arrested today as well, facing charges that, if convicted, everybody involved could get 5 years in federal prison.
In fact, I think the ultimate charges could be 15 years in prison, and you wonder with Gilbert with a record might get the max on this. I mean, this is just if you listen to this. See, they got alleged organized crime figures, a suspected organized crime figure from Israel. They got chefs. They got women. They have high-stakes poker. I mean, he basically set himself up as like something of a casino with the house getting a share of the profits. Like, he thought this was a good idea. Armed guards there. This is a neighbor that a television station in Los Angeles talked to after this story broke.
Well, just mostly people coming out at all hours of the night. Usually I'd see women, though, coming out. Yeah, maybe 1 or 2 or 3 in the morning and taking off with whomever in a car down the street.
That's great. I mean, this is a high-end neighborhood, big mansion, and they're watching this go on. Now, it's amazing because this goes back to 2022 that it's now breaking down, but I guess it's been a long-term investigation by federal authorities. And if you think Gilbert has remorse for this, after he was booked yesterday, this was Gilbert Arenas walking out of jail.
Can't hold me, baby. They can't hold me. Hello.
Yeah, they can't hold me. They can't hold me. Great. Well, they will hold you if they convict you, Gilbert. And for somebody to just continually be as self-destructive and stupid as he is, for one who comes across when you talk to him as being intelligent, it just defies logic. And a lot of it is like, oh, well, yeah, I like to joke around and everything. And he claims that the guns didn't have bullets in them, whatever. You can't bring guns into the locker room. And that was the beginning of the end of him. After the suspension, he came back. That was the 2009-2010 season. They took John Wall, number one in 2010. Ted had the chutzpah to say, yeah, I think that Gilbert is going to be a mentor for Wall. Yeah, sure. They traded him a short time later. He played for a couple of other teams and was out of the league. I think he has not played in the NBA since 2012. Look, he was a great player here. He was Agent Zero. People loved him. Averaged 27 points a game between 2004 and 2006, which was his best years. But this self-destructive stupidity that he engages in, it's just absolutely remarkable. So he's 43 years old now. He's got a son who I hopefully is okay. I believe he was going to play at USC, if I'm not mistaken, and he was in a very bad Tesla accident a few months back. Apparently he's okay, but I don't know whether he's going to be able to play this season. But again, an illegal gambling business out of his home with women, chefs, guards, alleged organized crime figures involved. What is the sense of that? What is that in any way? Does that make sense to anybody? Dan Graziano covers the NFL. As a matter of fact, he's at camp with Washington today. They started at 8 o'clock, so they're probably wrapping up about now. But he made a pit stop yesterday at PTI to talk about a variety of things around the NFL, including the Terry McLaurin holdout and the now hold-in for Trey Hendrickson of the Cincinnati Bengals. He's stopped the flow of money on fines and has reported to Bengals camp. So that was topic number one that they covered last night on PTI with Dan Graziano.
It means that he was sick of being fined $50,000 a day in an effort to get more money. That's a little incongruous. So he shows up today, and he's not going to practice, I'm sure, until this is settled. Bengals have offered him a deal. They believe it's fair. He disagrees. He wants more guarantees in future years. That's not something the Bengals have tended to do throughout their history. In fact, they broke precedent for Joe Burrow and Jamar Chase, but that's about it. So Trey Hendrickson at age 30, not a guy that the Bengals feel comfortable guaranteeing money to in future years beyond this one, and that has been the source of the dispute. At some point, somebody's going to have to move in the other's direction, but they have a few weeks to get this sorted out, and the fact that he's there is at least a positive as they prepare for their season.
The Bengals being the Bengals. Some of us were covering that stuff 30 and 40 years ago. Let's move to a place more familiar to Tony and me, Washington, where Terry McLaurin is having a hold in. You're going to be there tomorrow, Dan, with the Commanders. What's the latest on McLaurin and his contractual situation?
Kind of similar. I mean, another player who's, where the first number turned from a 2 to a 3 or will soon. And he's asking for high-end wide receiver money. He believes he's earned it. He's been the good soldier there, the good teammate, through a lot of difficult times. And now that it's good, he wants to be rewarded, and fair enough. So far he's asking for more than Washington has been willing to give. The wide receiver market has gone well past $30 million a year for the top guys. There are teams out there that think that that's crazy, that there's like 7 or 8 good ones coming out in the draft every year. I'm not saying Washington is one of those teams, but there is a little bit of a pushback in some places about where the wide receiver market has gone. I think Washington's willing to pay Terry McLaurin, but there's a little difference of opinion in terms of how high the number needs to be. And right now, same situation as Hendrickson. He's there, not practicing, and at some point, something's going to have to give.
Well, we know all the new head coaches are in camp. They're practicing and running practices, 7 of them, Dan. Is there one that has a favorite storyline for you, one of those 7 you are watching more closely than the others?
My favorite storyline is Travis Hunter, and that's a new head coach in Liam Cohen in Jacksonville. I'm extremely excited to see what they come up with for him. I was at their camp on Sunday and talked to Liam Cohen and talked to the GM James Gladstone about the ways they're trying to prepare Travis Hunter for a dual role, something we really have not seen to the level I expect to see it with Travis Hunter. So I think that's fascinating. Obviously, Liam Cohen has to get the offense in shape and Trevor Lawrence playing the way we've always thought he should be playing. But I think the Travis Hunter story is one of the coolest ones right now in the NFL. And if you ask me about new head coaches and good stories, that was the first one that popped into my head.
Yeah, we'll get you out of here on this. We know Travis Hunter is going to play. That's different from this question because this question is about Browns quarterbacks, and we don't know who's going to play. They have 4 quarterbacks, including 2 draft picks. Kenny Pickett has an injured hamstring. How do you see this whole situation playing out?
Look, Pickett, I think, was a factor, had a real chance, and may still, depending how long he's out. But the issue has been getting enough reps for all 4 guys. So Pickett's injury might help guys like Dylan Gabriel and Shadur Sanders get more reps. They don't feel like they need a ton of reps for Joe Flacco. They know what he can do, but the rookies may have a chance to get more practice reps as a result of the Pickett injury, and maybe that helps the case of Gabriel or Sanders to be the week 1 starter, or at the very least start at some point this season. I think they remember the Browns had Kenny Pickett before they had any of these other guys, so I think they want to give him a chance if he's healthy, but right now he's not, and that will force them to take a longer look at some of the rookies. Guys, it's really kind of a mess. I think the best thing you can say about the Browns quarterback situation is they have 2 first-round picks in next year's draft.
Yeah, I mean, how about that? That's Dan Graziano yesterday on PTI. So it's kind of an experiment here. You take the old quarterback, Joe Flacco, who's won a Super Bowl, who did have success with the Browns a couple of years ago when Deshaun Watson got hurt. He came in and led them to the playoffs. He left. He went to the Colts. He's back again, and he's old. And I guess if all else fails with the other 3, he plays. Then you have Kenny Pickett. At one time, Kenny Pickett was thought to be the quarterback of the future for the Pittsburgh Steelers. Does he have something left? Is this a reclamation project in Cleveland? And then you have the two rookies, the kind of shrimpy Dylan Gabriel, although we've seen, like Drew Brees, we've seen small quarterbacks succeed in the past. And then we have, the story of the draft, Shedeur Sanders, who goes down to the 5th round as Mel Kiper's freaking out, and a lot of other people who are draft observers are looking at it like, they must see something there. They didn't like his attitude. But, in the end, maybe he emerges. But if none of this works, if you got old, you got journeyman, and you got two rookies, and if none of those crabs climb out of the bucket, well, you got two number ones next year. And then you start to talk about Arch Manning. I don't think Arch Manning is coming out for next year's draft, no matter how well he plays at Texas this year. I think the Manning family understands that you have to have some experience behind you in college. The two uncles played 4 years. In fact, Eli was at Ole Miss for 5 years, took a redshirt year. But Peyton Manning, who would have been the number one pick of the 1997 draft, and by the way, would have gone to Bill Parcells and the New York Jets, wound up going back for his senior year at Tennessee to try and win a national championship. Couldn't beat Florida again, so didn't, but did become the number one pick of the 98 draft. Eli Manning, with the 5 years at Ole Miss, was number one in 2004. Traded to the Giants because his family didn't want him to play for San Diego. And now Arch, I just don't see Arch. And especially, there's another situation, too. It's not just that he doesn't want to necessarily, or the family doesn't necessarily want him to come out after only 1 year as a starter at Texas. It's Cleveland, right? And this isn't like Eli, who had to come out of college. He was out of eligibility. This is leverage here. So it could be that Arch goes, I think I'm ready to play in the NFL. The family thinks he's ready to play in the NFL. But do we want to go to the Cleveland Browns, which has been a notorious clown show? And by the way, not that long ago, had their franchise quarterback. I think Baker Mayfield has resurfaced as a franchise quarterback in Tampa. Did they really blow it not sticking with him long enough? He was pretty good. Not good enough to satisfy them, so he bounced to the Rams, and now he's bounced to Tampa, and he's having a great career now. So that could be a factor too in what Cleveland does if none of this quarterback mishigas works out the way that they want to. So they got options here, and they've thrown just about everything at the wall. Maybe something sticks, and maybe we come out of it in week 5 and go, Shedeur Sanders, he's really good. He was worthy of being a top 5 pick. How did he go to the 5th round? Could have that. Or Joe Flacco, just slogging along for a team that may win 4 or 5 games, and they go high up in the draft and can take the quarterback that they want. All right, so there is a show in the morning called Get Up, which is hosted by the unctuous Mike Greenberg, who gets very excited about very small things, but he's always got a crew of people around him. And yesterday they had on the show Kimberly Martin, who's a reporter for the NFL, Dominique Foxworth, who is a former player, played at Maryland, played with the Ravens, and may be on his way to becoming head of the Players Association in the NFL, which is just a mess right now, a complete mess. I think he's very, very bright and very good at what he does. And Louis Riddick, who I think is excellent at what he does. And on these morning shows, they like to play a lot of different games and so forth. So they have a segment that's called Ridiculous, which is a play on Louis Riddick's last name. Ridiculous, I guess is what they call it. And they have a question that's thrown out, and it's, is this a legit question or is this a ridiculous question? So it's Greenberg running the show with Kimberly Martin, with Louis Riddick, and Dominic Foxworth chiming in at the end with this question from Greenberg.
If I said he's going to be the MVP of the league this year, would you tell me that was ridiculous?
No, I would tell you that could very, very well happen. There's a good shot that may happen. This guy is unique. Now, we talk about unicorns all the time. This guy is a unicorn in terms of his football character, how mature he is. I watched him the other day have a media session. I'm sitting there going, has this guy played in the league 4 or 5 years? He's the unquestioned leader. He's one of the best leaders probably this football team has had in, 2 decades? Mm-hmm. I mean, he is without a doubt the head of the snake there. and I don't see him taking a step back at all. Don't mess it up with Terry McLaurin. Get his guy in there to a contract, not just in the building. Get him signed to a contract.
Listen to the way Jaden Daniels talks. I want you to hear yesterday, he was talking about crunch time situations. This is the Commanders' franchise quarterback talking about performing at the highest level in the most important moments.
That's what you live for. High pressure situations. That's when you're out there to showcase, the best of the best. And obviously, the great ones are able to figure out a way to win no matter how bad they played. Quarters 1 through 3. I want the ball in my hands in those situations, the high pressure moments, to hopefully help my team win a game.
He just says all the things that you want someone like him to say, and then he backs it up. Last year, Jaden Daniels, as a rookie, had 6 wins when trailing in the fourth quarter. That was not only tied with Patrick Mahomes for the most of any quarterback in the league, it was the most by any rookie since 1950 when they first started tracking that statistic. So he is that kind of special, or his rookie season was that kind of special. And Kmart, when I was asking you about what you expect from him this year, I really was interested in your answer.
Yeah, Lewis talks about MVP consideration this year. I think by the end of year 2, we're going to be able to say for Jaden that it's Super Bowl or bust with this kid. The same way we look at Josh and we look at Lamar and we look at Joe Burrow, because he has all the intangibles, all the qualities. I'm not talking about physically. I'm just talking about as a quarterback, where you look at Burrow and he's calm, cool, collected, but an assassin on the field, that's Jaden. Anytime this stat's about 6 wins when trailing in the fourth quarter, the kid is different. And that's what Dan Quinn loves about him since the preseason when they got him last year. I know that I could trust the rookie quarterback. He does not play like a rookie.
Dominic, you live there in D.C. I mean, I can't even fathom the enthusiasm. I remember talking to Tim Legler and some of the other long-suffering fans of that franchise last year. The expectations, that's a word that we have on our screen right now. And I can't remember expectations being this high for a player at this stage of his career in a very long time. Even Mahomes and Lamar won the MVP as a second-year player and others. I don't recall people talking about them the way we're talking about this kid. How do you feel about it?
Yeah, I mean, I think that to your point, the expectations are incredibly high. And the Commanders fans that I talk to, all I hear them saying is, we got a guy. Like, it's so nice to have a guy and feel like your window is open and you can trust them and you know you're never out of a game. Or if you go on a losing streak, you feel fine. Like, it's really nice to be relaxed and to know that you don't have to be concerned until January. That's the time of the year when you start to have to worry, because that's when your expectations start to come to fruition or fall to the wayside. I would say that Kimberly's probably right. I like that for Jaden Daniels, that he is going to be elevated to one of those type of guys that we're looking at to win championships and is kind of Super Bowl or bust at some point. But let's enjoy it. Let's take our time, because we move the goalposts on quarterbacks so often. Just last year, we were like, can he play? Now we're like, by the end of this season, he's going to be a Super Bowl or bust guy. Like, let's relax. Like, we don't want to put him in there with Lamar and Josh Allen, where it feels like they could have MVP caliber seasons. And we're like, oh, man, but he still ain't won the big one yet.
Like, book it. Commanders in the Super Bowl. I love it, baby. So he's saying all the right stuff now, but he knows better.
And really quickly, Liz, you say he looks a little bigger, right? Does he look a little thicker?
You saw him there when he was just talking there on camera. You see his biceps.
No, it's just because he was standing next to Kevin Clark.
He was standing next to Kevin Clark.
If you remember last year during the draft, was this guy going to be able to hold up? As soon as he gets hit, people are acting like he was just going to explode in half. This is the dude, man. No, forget that. I'm not tempering any of the hype on this guy. None of it, because he's got the shoulders to kind of go ahead and carry it. Dan Quinn talks about the guy like this. Like, hey, he's the first guy in the building. He beats coaches in there. This is the guy.
This is the guy, according to Louis Riddick. And of that panel, I think he's the most insightful of all of them. He played in the NFL. He worked in the front office of a couple of teams, including Washington. And he, again, felt last year, after watching all the top quarterbacks at their pro days, that Jaden Daniels was the best. And as everybody said, oh, Caleb Williams, he's generational. These guys don't come along that often. This is the guy. He said, well, if I was doing the picking for the Chicago Bears, I would take Jaden Daniels, which turned out to be the right pick. That's not to say that Caleb Williams can't have a great career. And 3 years from now, we might be saying, well, Chicago took the right guy. But at this time, when you hear the giddiness of I guess you're getting a little bit of pump your brakes from Dominique Foxworth, but Kimberly Martin is over the moon, and Mike Greenberg's always over the moon with everybody. But with Louis Riddick, of the ones who you'd think would say, well, there's a lot of things you have to learn in football, a lot of things come along, blah blah blah. He's saying no. This is the guy. Now this Super Bowl or bust stuff, I believe they're saying that not for this year, but going into next year. I don't know how far-fetched that is because, remember, Dan Marino took the Dolphins to the Super Bowl in his second year, and he set a record for 48 touchdown passes in a 16-game schedule that year. And that was a period of time where we didn't have running quarterbacks. We had quarterbacks who could run a little bit. Joe Theismann could run a little bit, was still playing. I don't think Warren Moon had entered the league yet, or maybe he had just come into the league, but he could run. There were a few. But it was a drop-back passing league, and Dan Marino was a pinpoint passer. And Dan Marino took the Dolphins to the Super Bowl where they lost to Joe Montana and the 49ers, and Marino never got back. I mean, I'm not predicting that kind of gloom and doom, but the giddiness that you hear, and this is a national show. This isn't local sports radio where people are freaking out about it. It's a national show. And two people who know football, one's a reporter, Kimberly Martin's a reporter as well, and two who played the game in Foxworth and Riddick are saying, yeah, you got one here, but I think Foxworth is right. Just pump your brakes a little bit. If we are talking Super Bowl or bust next year at this time, that's a good thing. And the way the contracts work, that might be their best shot for a while because that would be the last year that realistically Jaden Daniels is under a rookie contract. I know they have him under control for 5 years, including that fifth-year option. But after year 3 is the year you have to start to negotiate on a long-term deal and hopefully get things done before you get to that fifth-year option, before you reach that point. And I think they'll do everything they can on that. And as I've said about this, this is going to be a very interesting negotiation. I mean, we're getting ahead of ourselves, and they still have to get Terry McLaurin done. But remember this, the agent for Jaden Daniels is Regina Daniels, his mother. His mother is the one, maybe she has a different last name, might be Jackson, I'm not sure. But the mom of Jaden Daniels is the agent. And having used an agent over the years, the role of the agent is to listen to management, tell the agent why you're not worth as much as the agent says you are. That's the job. And they have to come up with flaws for you. So sitting across the table from Adam Peters and whoever else is negotiating this contract, Peters is going to have to tell the mom, yeah, I know he's your son. I know you love him. We love him, too, in a different way. But this is the reality of where we are, and this is what we can pay, and we really can't pay what you're asking us to pay. That's going to be one of the all-time interesting negotiations because I don't know. Maybe there have been cases in the past of top-notch athletes having mom as the agent, but I don't know of one offhand. There are certain agents who are well-known. Lee Steinberg used to have all the top quarterbacks in football, and then he had some personal problems, including alcoholism. I think he may have a couple of clients now. But he used to control the quarterback market going back to when he had Steve Bartkowski coming out of Cal in 1976. And he had many of them over the years. But I don't know of a case. Scott Boras is the guy in baseball who's, I don't even know who the top agent is in the NBA. It's sort of irrelevant because they have a structure where you can max out. So if you're going to max out, how much you're going to give an agent to negotiate that deal? I mean, this is it. This is in the collective bargaining agreement. Here, $50 million. Take it or leave it. Oh, I think I'll take it. So that's going to be one to watch. But yeah, the Jaden Daniels hype is in full flower, and we're heading into only year 2 of that, to the point where the discussion is, by the end of next year, it'll be Super Bowl or bust. Anyway, next hour, we'll get to the baseball trade deadline stuff, what the Nats did yesterday, and also some more football talk as we go around the league with Ian Rappaport, as he was on Dan Patrick yesterday. It's the Andy Pollin Show, ESPN 630. 6 o'clock today is the baseball trade deadline. The Nationals, who maybe thought they might be sellers, have already been sellers. They sell the big one, Mackenzie Gore, by 6 o'clock. And the Orioles, who are expected to be buyers at this point, are certainly going to be sellers. They have been sellers already. They'll continue to be sellers. And that's just the way it is for baseball in this area in 2025. Football's starting tonight, though. Hall of Fame game in Canton, Detroit, Chargers. Can I interest you in that? Looks like a stadium deal is going to happen. The city council will vote on that tomorrow. We'll get to that and a whole lot more, plus other NFL notes. Ian Rappaport went kind of around the league yesterday on the Dan Patrick Show. I don't usually play a segment that's that long, but it's about 10 minutes of various notes around the league, and I think he did a good job with Dan, and we'll get to that shortly. As far as Mackenzie Gore and the Nats go, if the price is right, I think they're probably going to do it because it's another Boras client. It's a pitcher who's under control for 2 more years after this, which makes him very valuable on the trade market, much like Juan Soto with what they did sending him to San Diego to make a run at the World Series. When they realized that wasn't going to happen, they flipped him again to the Yankees. So you have options on that. It's not like a guy with an expiring contract. So his price may be high, and again, it's a Boras guy. I don't think that they've shown no indication that they want to deal with him. Now, they did make some deals yesterday. They sent Michael Soroka to the Cubs for shortstop Ronnie Cruz and outfielder Christian Franklin. These are prospects in the organization. They also traded Andrew Chafin and Luis Garcia to the Angels for left-hander Jake Eder and first baseman Sam Brown. Mark Zuckerman and Dan Kolko on Masson yesterday before the loss to Houston to close out the series there, discussed the trades and what they got back in return.
Jake Eder is the left-hander. He's the number 24 prospect in the Angels system. A little bit of time in the big leagues as a reliever, actually started in the minor leagues. And Sam Brown's the first baseman, a 708 OPS at AA. He's not among their top 30 prospects, but let's be clear. As you said, these are 2 in-season pickups for a team that was trying desperately to salvage its bullpen and stabilize. Both those guys played a big role in that, especially Garcia here, just within the last couple of weeks. Yes, you'd love to have them, and yes, it's going to hurt the bullpen. They're going to have Zach Brixey now here to take at least one of those spots here today. But anytime you can flip veterans like that for anything in return that may help you down the road, of course you do that. The first 2 of, I think we both agree, is going to be a good number of moves here coming in the next 36 hours.
And Mark, a lot of the Nationals free agent acquisitions, bullpen-wise, before the season started, did not pan out. But these are guys that they picked up, as we discussed, in the middle of the season. So you have to give the Nationals front office credit for these 2 moves. The Andrew Chafin move, he was out there. Anybody could have signed him after he got let go out of his minor league deal. And Luis Garcia was let go by the Dodgers. He was tipping his pitches. The Nationals found a way to fix him in a way and now flip him at the deadline. These are 2 success stories.
Oh, absolutely. And they both appreciate the opportunity the Nationals gave them and helped them figure things out. Chafin back at that time, he had pitched the first month of the season at Toledo, the Tigers AAA affiliate. They weren't going to call him up. He opted out. The Nats swept right in and picked him up at a time when they desperately needed someone like that. And Garcia, this just happened, right before the All-Star break in that first week when all the chaos is going on.
Yep.
As you said, tipping his pitches. He came up here, he fixed that issue, and he was throwing as hard as he has thrown in years, 100 miles an hour the other night, and really effective. And yeah, they helped this team and helped them play better here over the last couple of weeks. Garcia has played for the Angels before.
He has?
He's played a lot of teams at this point, but he's going back to them. And Chafin, we know he's been around the block. 2 veterans who helped stabilize this bullpen and are going to help an Angels team that's kind of on the fringes of the race. They're not like one of these teams right in the thick of it all. Right. They're trying to make a push right now.
And Luis Garcia, a guy that was the first pickup by Mike DeBartolo after he became the Nationals interim general manager. So from first pickup to one of the guys dealt. So now 3 Nationals players dealt. And Mark, there are a lot of guys on expiring contracts on this Nationals roster that could be traded before tomorrow's 6 p.m. deadline. There's also a couple guys that are controllable beyond this year that could maybe be dealt as well. Mackenzie Gore, a name that, as I mentioned, has been bandied about quite a bit. And the Nationals are going to have a steep ask for him because he has emerged as one of the better young pitchers in baseball, and also because they have 2 more years of control for him. So how high do you think the ask will be by Mike DeBartolo for a guy that has been a swing and miss guy, which is incredibly valued in today's game?
I think it's got to be very high. We're not at Juan Soto territory, but it's a step below that. He's got the same number of years of control left, ascending into this position where he is legitimately one of the best young pitchers in the league. And as you've said, and as we've been saying all along, Mike DeBartolo isn't shopping Mackenzie Gore around. This is not a case like that. If you're another team, though, that is desperate enough to want to improve, not just for this year, but for the next several years, and potentially get 3 postseason runs out of him, you've got to be interested, but you're going to have to pay the piper for this. And so if you're Mike DeBartolo, you're listening to whatever these offers are. I don't know if today's game impacts a whole lot about how this would proceed. If you're the Nationals, you probably want to be careful with him, like they were with Mike Soroka last night, not pushing him too far. But to me, you're asking for multiple top prospects, and chances are you want at least one of them ideally to be, if not big league ready, pretty close to it. If you're going to sell this kind of move to everyone is what you're trying to do right now, you need to show that there's immediate help on the way, not something that's going to be 3-4 years down the road.
So that was Dan Kolko and also Mark Zuckerman yesterday on the deals that were made. More are likely to come. We're a little less than 8 hours away from the deadline, but Gore is the big one to watch. And, who thought that they were going to trade Juan Soto with so much time left? But they did. And I can see them doing it, and it makes sense. Now, Mark is talking about the need for guys who are major league ready. Yeah, to some extent, but they took a 17-year-old shortstop in the draft at number 1. He's not going to be ready for at least 3 years. And then you got the uncertainty of baseball. That's another thing. If you're building a team for 2017, I don't think an entire season gets knocked out, but we saw it happen in hockey 20 years ago. And if the owners are really serious about wanting a salary cap, it may take that to do it. You may have to knock out an entire season. Now, the owners have always lost to the players in baseball. They never win. So they may blink, and they may go back and do this. It'd be interesting to see how the broadcast deals are written. It's a little bit different than the way it is in the NFL. The NFL could always survive these strikes by the players because they were getting TV money at the time, and it's actually probably making, at some point, a little bit more money because they didn't have to stage games and pay players. But if you're looking at 2027, I think it's in doubt because the collective bargaining agreement runs out in December of 2026. So you may be looking at what you're going to have for 2028. And you won't have Mackenzie Gore if you keep him under his contract, or at least you won't have him under the control that you have. He becomes a free agent. So I would not be surprised if they deal him before today. Now, the Orioles, this was a team that made the playoffs the last 2 years, and they added a couple of pieces in the offseason, including Charlie Morton, who's 41 years old. Started off terribly, but has pitched better lately. He's going to be dealt today for sure. Cedric Mullins, he's making a case to be dealt. He made a great catch. He's hit a home run. He's been playing great for the Orioles, so the price for him is going up. And Ryan O'Hearn was an all-star. I would expect all 3 of those guys to be dealt before the 6 o'clock trade deadline today. All right, a little more football, and Kurt Warner with the NFL Network. Kurt Warner is kind of tied to Rich Eisen. They do a lot of work together, pregame stuff. They've done these overseas games as well. Eisen, by the way, his name is being thrown around to do that YouTube game. The NFL continues to sell off pieces of the various broadcast contracts. Like last year, they did 2 games on Netflix, so now they're expanding to YouTube. And Eisen is the front runner to do that game. I'm not sure why. I don't think he's necessarily a great play-by-play guy, but okay, he's going to do that. And Warner, I think, probably will do the analysis with him. He's quite good. And so they had a little chat yesterday by Zoom, and Eisen asked him about his excitement level for the rookie quarterback class of last year as they make the step up to year 2, and who he's most excited to see.
Yeah, I want to see Jaden Daniels in year 2. Okay. I thought he was phenomenal last year. And, if this is who this kid is and we get to see that same thing this year, I mean, we're looking at a superstar and I believe probably a future MVP in this league if we can see that again. I think the intrigue with Caleb Williams and the change with Ben Johnson is exciting as well, because you remember we called the game in London and he throws 4 touchdown passes and he looks every bit the part. And then things kind of spiraled and fell apart for the Chicago Bears and for Caleb kind of down the stretch. But I'm excited to see. I want to know who Caleb Williams is as well. And so I'm really excited to see him in this offense. I really like what Ben Johnson does. And I think it's going to give Caleb a better chance to succeed this year. I'm looking forward to seeing Michael Penix too. Is that, we just caught a glimpse of him at the end of last year, but I'm excited to see with all the talent he's got around him, him as well. So I think there's so many great things to see from a quarterback perspective. But I think I really want to see Jayden Daniels again. I so enjoyed watching him play. I couldn't wait to pop on the tape every single week to see what he was going to do. So I'm excited to see year 2 for him.
Yeah, and then so now that I have my answer, let's go back to Caleb, because you were so vocal on your QB Confidential YouTube page and everything else that you popped out on Caleb about the way he was playing, the way that they were having him play. Then obviously the season blew up on the coaching staff. Knowing what Ben Johnson does, and knowing what Caleb needed to have done for him last year, walk me through what this marriage means for Caleb, do you think?
Right. This is interesting because, I've talked about a lot on Game Day Morning, and I talk about it for those that follow me, this whole pure progression idea that we're seeing kind of take over football and even, kind of take over the NFL. And it simply means that you're giving a quarterback a play, and the progression stays exactly the same no matter what defense you see. It's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, no matter what defense you see. I fall into another category where I call it defender read type plays, where I'm going back and I'm trying to look at a defender. And I've got 2 receivers that are trying to put that guy in conflict. I'm going to read that defender and let that defender tell me where I'm going to throw it. So I believe the pure progression type system can slow a quarterback down because he's not reading kind of 2 guys at once and not able to get through things faster. And that's what Chicago did most of the time last year. And I felt like I feel like it hurts quarterbacks, but I felt like it really hurt Caleb Williams. And he got caught holding the football way too much, leading to all of those sacks and all of those issues. Okay, bring in Ben Johnson. Now, Ben Johnson does a version of pure progression type offense as well. But what I love about what Ben does is that he ties his pure progression type offense into concepts that could be more defender read type concepts. So you're still reading it in a particular order, but it's designed around still putting that player in conflict. And I'm interested to see how that meshes with who Caleb Williams is that you still have your progression, but can he get into some more of that defender read and play the game faster than he did last year? Ben has a great system. I really like what he does and how he builds his offense. So I'm excited about that marriage. But I think it's going to give us a better chance to see who Caleb Williams is and what he's capable of doing. And can he play the game faster? And, we go back to college and he was so dynamic and so good, and especially good at creating and making these special plays. We need him to play more on time, on schedule, and making those kind of timing throws, which he didn't do very well last year. I think this system is going to give him a chance to do that better, and it's going to illuminate for all of us who Caleb Williams is at this point in time in his career, where last year I just felt like he was behind the 8 ball and he was playing slow, and I don't believe the system helped him to play faster.
So that's Kurt Warner with his assessment of year 2 quarterbacks with Rich Eisen yesterday. You may have heard this earlier this week. Kevin Clark, who does the This Is Football podcast, did, I thought, pretty good interview with Dan Quinn, who doesn't, say a whole lot of interesting things. But Quinn compared Jayden Daniels to Peyton Manning. I mean, in terms of work ethic, but also his studying of the game. And what they said about the great quarterbacks like Manning and Brady is the play was done when they got to the line of scrimmage. They could assess where everybody was, and that's the ball game. And if Caleb Williams is that guy, we know Jayden is, and we know, Quinn is talking about it, seeing him at 5 o'clock in the morning coming off the field, like he's already gone through his progressions on the field, and ready to dive deep into the tape room and study. That's really what quarterbacking is. Most of these guys who come to the NFL, they have skills. They have physical skills. It's the mental part of the game. And as far as what Ben Johnson can do with him. It's not quite a reclamation project because Caleb Williams was pretty good last year, even with the mess that they had with the offensive coordinator and the coach getting fired over the course of the season. But remember what he did with Jared Goff in Detroit. Goff was supposed to be like, just run out the contract as they made the deal with the Rams. He had taken them to the Super Bowl, but he'd been benched. They were done with him. And he resuscitated his career, and now Jared Goff is one of the top quarterbacks in the league. So that is going to be interesting to watch to see how they handle all of that. Anyway, that does it for me. Bram is coming up next. I'll see you back here tomorrow at 9 a.m.